This past Tuesday, I opened up our Bible study with a particular question, and I'd like to open up this message the same today. Where is one of your favorite places to go for a walk? I'll even add some additional questions to this prompt and unpack it a little bit more for us today. If you could go on a walk anywhere this afternoon, where would you like to go? Would you go by yourself? Or would you ask someone to accompany you? What would you think about on your walk? What would fill your conversation if you were talking with someone along the way? Take a moment to think on it. I invite you to share your ideas in the chats or the comments. My response to this question is the same as it was that day in Bible study. I would likely be walking at Evergreen Cemetery in Portland with my dog, Darby. I might reflect on the morning, take in the beauty of the scenery, say hello to other walkers or runners or bikers that I pass. My walk would be a moment of restoration and renewal, hopefully. A time to put down work and my phone and all that consumes my attention on a regular basis. A break to process that which has happened over the last few days and to prepare for that which is to come. I'd hope to be present, both to myself and to my surroundings as I walked through the cemetery. What about you? Walks often have the power to restore and renew, don't they? What do you do when you have some stiff and sore muscles from exerting yourself the day before? You might take a walk to stretch your legs and to loosen up your body from being stationary for some time. What do you do when you need to clear your mind and restore your spirit after a long meeting, say on Zoom? You might need to take a walk to get some fresh air, to gain some new perspective on the rest of the tasks set for the day. What do you do when you're eager to catch up with a neighbor and process some of life's happenings with a listening ear? You might take a walk to refresh yourself in the company of a friend and to find solace in community and conversation with one another. Reflect, restore, renew, and repeat. These are some of the healing properties of a simple walk. It's no surprise that Cleopas and his co-traveler needed a walk that day. After all that had happened that week, Jesus' entrance into Jerusalem, his death on the cross, his burial in the tomb, and then learning about his resurrection. A walk would allow them some time to reflect on all that had happened. It would allow them some space to maybe process their emotions, their grief, their frustration, their sheer disbelief. And maybe it would give them some time to search for some peace and for some understanding in the midst of all this chaos. Cleopas and the unnamed companion were walking and talking with one another in hopes of restoration, in hopes of finding answers to their many questions, in hopes of finding clarity in a moment of immense confusion. Did they really find what they had been hoping for? Not exactly. Instead, they encounter a stranger. And unbeknownst to Cleopas and his companion, Jesus is the stranger who is journeying beside them, asking them to share the stories they've been chatting about on their walk to Emmaus. Episcopal minister Debbie Thomas notes the healing that occurs in this exchange of stories between Cleopas, the companion, and Jesus. And she says this: as soon as Jesus falls into step with the companions on the road, he invites them to tell their story. What are you discussing with each other while you walk along? And astonished by this question, Cleopas and his co-traveler tell Jesus everything. They share with him the story of their faith, its rise and its fall. They tell Jesus how high their expectations had been for their now crucified leader, a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people. They describe their devastation at his death, their confusion, their loss, their uncertainty. They tell Jesus the whole story. And Jesus listens. He hears them out, allowing them to have the balm of articulation. And then, when they're done, he tells the story back to them. And as he does so, the story changes. In his retelling, it becomes what it really always was: something far bigger, deeper, older, wiser, and richer than what the travelers on the Emmaus road understood. Here's what you're leaving out, Jesus seems to say. Here is what you're missing. Jesus helps to contextualize the story for Cleopas and his companion. He helps them find their own place in the story and to zoom out from their own narrow perspective. Before Jesus reveals himself to them in the breaking of bread, he invites them to think more broadly about their own experience. There's something going on here that is bigger, broader, more complex than you can even understand in the midst of all your grief. Jesus makes space to hear their story and also challenges them to see their own story from a different perspective. This isn't where the story ends. We know that the story continues at the table. Cleopas and his companion realize who Jesus is as the resurrected Christ. And they realize the hope that is restored because, yes, in fact, Jesus lives. And then they set out for another walk. They walk back to Jerusalem to share the story of Jesus' appearance to them with others. The healing they experience in conversation and connection with Jesus is then theirs to share with other disciples. The restoration that they experience in their walking and their talking and their eating with Jesus moves them to reveal the hope of Christ's resurrection with others. When their eyes are opened to see Jesus for all that he is, they see more fully the possibility of hope, justice, and peace for all of humanity. So where is it that we find ourselves in this story? Where are you walking along the road? Have you been able to experience the presence of God with you on this journey? Have you seen the glimpses of hope and of justice and of peace for all of humanity? Have you shared that hope with others? Beloveds, no matter where you locate yourself in this story today, remember these things: that God journeys with us through every circumstance, even when we don't recognize it. And because the resurrected Christ lives and moves among us, hope, justice, and peace are a possibility for all of God's humanity. Thanks be to God. Amen.